Welcome to Inspiring Possible. I'm Christy Pennison, former stuck person turned therapist and dream consultant. Are you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, uncertain, or just need a little inspiration? Then I want to help you gain the clarity, confidence, and courage to create possibilities and live a life you love. Because, folks, life's too short to be miserable. Hello, Inspiring Possible folks. I hope your day is off to a great start or going well at whatever point you're listening to this. I can't believe that we are getting closer to the end of the year. It is pretty incredible that 2025 is getting near its end, which just is crazy to me. But we've had a lot of different guests on this year that have talked about a lot of different things that hopefully have given you some inspiration, some encouragement, maybe even some motivation for your life to be able to pursue the things that you have on your heart and mind to do. And as we get closer to a new year, I always like us to consider some things that we may want to let go of in the next season that we transition into. Some things we want to add, but I do find that when you're trying to move forward and you have these dreams on your heart to create, there's some things that you got to let go of to be able to make space for the new. So as we're about to be moving into a new year, it's not too far away, folks. I don't mean to rush it to get to the end, but it's coming up. I have a guest today who I think can maybe just talk with us a little bit about how there's some things in our life that may not always be serving us, but we don't realize it because we're on autopilot. And so if you are feeling like you are running on autopilot today, then this is the episode for you. So I'm really excited to welcome Laura Elorza to the show. She is a clinical psychologist who kind of helps people break free from this autopilot living and maybe really rediscover what true happiness is for them. And so, welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much for having me in your podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you and tell you a little bit more about this because I do believe that here and we're in a culture that most of the time we are in autopilot. We're just going through the motions. So, understanding this and living this behind on 2025 and transitioning to 2026 in a different note, I think it's going to be amazing into a more conscious note for sure.
Yeah, well, I know that you're kind of in a similar space as me, working and seeing people that come into your office to come, just try to figure out what's holding them back in life, or they might be in the state of discomfort, or maybe life is overwhelming them, and you kind of help walk them through. But how do you see people living on autopilot? Like, what does this look like to you and the clients that you might work with, or the people you interact with?
So the main thing about like living in autopilot would be going through the motions of doing everything that is expected from us or that we think is expected from us, rather than the things that we want to do and that drive us or that it's part of our desire and our wishes. So you see that daily. Like sometimes we just have a routine and it's work, home, and that's about it. And then maybe on the weekend see some friends and we stay on this circle. And sometimes we can get into habits that are not serving us within this like circle. So you see that a lot. Like sometimes it is overworking, and you see people working 12 hours or 15 hours a day and not sleeping. Or sometimes it's eating habits, or sometimes it's movement habits. You see that all the time that you get stuck. And that's what autopilot is. Like you are living for others rather than for yourself. And you see it daily. And I think every person here, I was in autopilot for the longest time ever. So understanding this is also like taking back control of your life and taking your freedom back. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know about, like you said, even for you, I think there's always probably something in our life that's running on autopilot, I would say. But I can even think to myself in certain seasons, I can get really habitual about some things that I know maybe don't always serve me well, but it's like I just keep doing them And so if people are listening, y'all know I've talked about my, like, Netflix challenge, and I don't know if this is a thing for the helping profession, okay, Laura, so you can kinda tell me if this is something that you may do, but, like, I will go home after a large day of working, like you say, sometimes overworking and not realizing it, and then my habit will be, like, after I eat or I maybe talk on the phone a little bit or make sure my daughter has everything that she needs, then it typically will end with this autopilot routine of like, "Oh, let me see if there's anything to watch." And I know that's not another thing we're gonna really focus on today, but it has been for me one of the hardest things to break without giving myself judgment or shame. Like, "Yes, Chrissy, it's okay to watch this," but then when I'm watching too late or that I'm waking up the next day a little bit less sleep than I really needed to get, or when I'm mad at myself that I just wasted 2 hours of my life watching something really stupid that added no value to my day. It really is hard. So I can kinda see I like how you said habits, because there's some habits that are no longer serving us that we need to learn how to let go of, but we just do them so habitually that we don't even know. Like, I even think people on their phones these days, like, picking them up, scrolling, looking through things, like, you can start to be uncomfortable and pick this up, w
Immediately.
and try to get that, I guess, dopamine hit to, like, escape reality for 5.5 seconds, and then it's hard to kinda switch back. So, what are some things that you see people really do on autopilot that may be limiting their life?
So what you were saying, like first thing that I've seen a lot during like the sessions, phone, like social network. And it's so funny because we're called users on social networks. And it's because it kind of becomes addicting. Like you're always getting hit with the next piece of content that it's always there to capture your attention. And then you see your screen time by the end of the week and you're like, I can't believe I spend this amount of time in my phone. Doing what? Like, what did I get from this? Right? So I see that a lot. What you were mentioning, like sometimes Netflix or staying on the TV until you see something that kind of catches your eye, but then you see like you spend an hour trying to find that perfect movie to watch, and you're like, huh, maybe I could have used this hour for something else, something more feeling, or that it feels that it connected me a little bit more with my purpose. And what you were saying, like these pieces of content are created to capture your attention. So it's also like saying this like compassionately, like, hey, maybe you spend a little bit more than you wanted to on your phone or watching um, a movie or a series when you binge watch something that you're like, wow, 5 hours of my day gone. like,
Um,
um, say it gracefully and say compassionately to you, like, okay, maybe next time I'll ask myself, like, okay, what's the intention of this? What do I want to achieve with this? Do I feel uncomfortable and I want to get away from that feeling? Or do I really want to watch this movie or this piece of content? I've seen that a lot. And also like eating habits or alcohol. That's something that uh, alcohol has been culturally known. You use it to celebrate. So you graduated. Let's cheers on champagne. Or you had a bad day. Just like pour yourself a glass of wine and relax in your bathtub. And you started doing it more often, and then you notice you're drinking much more than you used to, and sometimes it's like, "Wow, like, I'm not feeling great. I'm not resting enough," or, "I'm waking up with a hangover, and my body is feeling drained of energy." So, I see that a lot in my consult, day to day, and I'm not talking about, like, excessive consumption. I'm talking about, yeah, 1 glass or 2 glasses or scrolling for an hour. It all compounds, you know? And that's what a lot. And that's autopilot, that compounding effect.
yeah. Well, and you know what? It's really interesting because, like you said, I think culturally or socially, sometimes there's different habits, we'll say,
Mhm.
that part of our daily life that may not always be serving allowing us to get to our highest potential, let's put it that way, or
Mhm.
serving our fullest purpose. And it doesn't mean that we can't. do these things, that to celebrate or to whatever, but when it becomes sometimes a default coping skill to get through a hard day or to get through some kind of thing that is maybe challenging. And I mean, I listen, I'm one that listen, guys, who's listening, I'll throw myself under the bus first so that for your, listening to realize this is something that everybody struggles with. Because I can even think yesterday, I do consume alcohol on occasion, right? And so
Mhm.
I was like, you know what? I haven't had a glass of wine in a minute. I really feel like I want one tonight. But you're right. Then what happens is you get one glass, and then you're like, okay, maybe I'll do one more. And like, okay, well now I've got to go to sleep, and you never know how bodies are going to respond. And I know where I live. I live in Louisiana. Okay, Laura.
Okay.
So central Louisiana, it's a little bit not as culturally as much, but I used to live in South Louisiana for a while. And I
Mhm.
remember the difference culturally, okay, about specifically about alcohol, okay, because we'll go there for a little bit, listeners. And I remember that when I was growing up, it would be like taboo if you found alcohol in somebody's home. Okay. So that was one
Oh.
extreme, right? But then
Mhm.
I moved, and I'm not saying that people didn't drink and things like that. That was just my experience, right? Being grown up, because there was some belief systems in the family that maybe alcohol was not a good thing to consume. Doesn't mean that in the community people did, but I even lived in dry places where they actually couldn't sell alcohol. Okay, let's give this a context. But
Uh,
then just an hour south, okay, which is more southern Louisiana, it's almost kinda like a sin if you don't have alcohol in your home. Like, if you go to a party and you are not consuming alcohol or you're not like, does that make sense? There's these habits
yeah.
that we can fall into that and I think it also is very cultural sometimes and social based off of how much people engage in these things.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's moderately, which we're gonna talk a little bit about. I know y'all have an app we're gonna talk about today. Sometimes it's moderately and sometimes it's excessively, and it's hard to figure out
Mhm.
what the line is when it becomes a default way to just, like, live.
For sure. And what you were saying, it's sometimes it's a coping mechanism. And it happens a lot that you have a situation, you're feeling anxious or you're feeling, I don't know, stressed out, or social events can create something of a little bit of like, oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable. I don't know these people. So you drink to take the edge off, for example. And I'm saying this as like, I also sometimes enjoy a glass of wine. I'm not saying like, oh, it's taboo, you can't drink. But it's more of like, know your limits. And I think that's when you get out of that autopilot. It's not like, oh, everyone's drinking, so I'm gonna drink and I'm gonna drink as much as everyone is drinking and I'm gonna keep on uh popping up my glass. Uh it's like, okay, I feel okay with one glass and that's enough. Or some other times you feel like, oh, maybe today I'm not drinking. And that's okay too. Because I don't know how or when it became okay to tell people like, "Oh, you're not drinking, but we're all here. You should have a glass. Come on." Like the social pressure of it all. It's a little bit crazy.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about kind of as people might realize, okay, this may be something that I didn't realize maybe is something I use a lot to maybe get through life, or maybe it's just a habit. I know that you've started working yourself with a platform that kind of helps people become more conscious of some of the unconscious habits they have. So maybe we can talk a little bit more about that and how you've seen that helpful for people, and helping them kind of be able to create a change that they feel good about and also empowering people to figure out what's going to really work for their life.
Of course. So like this platform is called Unconscious Moderation. And this platform helps people to build habits that it could either help them understand why they're using alcohol. Sometimes it was a band-aid or a different wound, or it was a coping mechanism. Um, and then it became a little bit of an issue. But what it's important to know is that, like, what we want to achieve with this is you don't have to stop drinking if you don't want to, or if you don't feel that it's creating big problems in your life, but maybe you're noticing that you're drinking a little bit too much for comfort. And this platform is for that, to understand why, like the unconscious motivation behind the drinking. But it's also for habit building if we think about it. We encourage people to do daily meditations, which are great. And I think psychology, medicine, counseling, everyone in the mental health environment is like, yeah, go meditate, be mindful, and just be aware of your body. And I thought it was so cool. We have like 20-minute meditation guides where you sit down and just like listen to it. You don't have to put your mind blank, which is I think it's one of the worst things that they've told us that you should do in meditation, because I'm also like a yoga uh, teacher. And I always tell the people, like, hey, your mind is meant to have thoughts. Like how your heart is beating, your mind is meant to have thoughts. So it's not putting your mind completely blank. It's not attaching to the thoughts. And so this guided meditation helps you not to attach to those thoughts because you're getting input. Then we also have movement. And it's very important to know that move a muscle, change a thought. And it's okay, I'm feeling stuck. So let me go for a walk, or let me put my legs up the wall and change the perspective of where I'm standing right now. It helps a lot to get out of that autopilot. And journaling, I think it's also a big thing. And your hand can't go as fast as your brain. So it forces you to just like sit down and write, right? And just slow that train of thought. And it helps you understand yourself a little bit more. And that's how you kick that autopilot off. It's asking yourself the how and the why, especially understanding when you're doing things because you should be doing it, or you think you should be doing it because it's, uh, I don't know, status quo, maybe, or because you want to do it. That's like what this app is
Yeah,
really
well,
about.
and I love how you said sometimes we have things that we maybe think that we should be doing this. And, this has been a real challenge even for me, the older I've gotten, to really evaluate what things do I do because I actually am conscious that I'm doing them, that I want to do these things, not because at some point along my journey I picked up that this is how I should live or what I should do. And I think that we often don't realize how much many belief systems or ingrained ways of being we have adopted as we've been living life. And it could be from our social communities, it could be from our family systems, it can be from our belief systems that are driving some of that. And it's really crazy to when you really stop to evaluate, like if you think about everything you do in a day and you kind of think about like the question, like, to what end or what purpose am I doing
Mhm.
this for? Or the how and the why, you really start to peel back some of your behaviors and you're like, okay, maybe I've just been doing this because people around me did it. Doesn't mean it's something I definitely always want to do. Or if you ask, is this to my benefit or my detriment? Sometimes you realize some of the things that you're doing really doesn't serve me well. Maybe it's actually caused me issues in relationships, or it's caused issues in my health or my mental health to where this is not always putting me in a good place. So how can so I just when I think about for the listeners that are listening, like when you think about your life, I think one of the things that Laura is alluding to is that we don't always realize some of the things that we have done and why we do them. And then how can we create that change that really allows us to be more open to, I think, possibilities. And you can't always be open to things if you are just moving through things.
Yeah. And it's also like sometimes you feel that mental fog of
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going through the motions. This is what I should be doing, and this is what is this it's expected from me. Especially as a mom or a dad, like you have like someone there that you're taking care of, and you to go ahead and think, oh, I have to be a good mom, and I have to be a good partner, and I have to be good at my job. And sometimes those labels are tough, and mm, that's when you got to ask yourself, like, how can I show up for myself? And if I show up for myself, the people around me will benefit from it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people think, like, asking yourself the question of, what do I want to do? What makes me happy? What is not like dopamine but genuine happiness? Sometimes people interchange it with, oh, you're being selfish, you're only thinking about yourself. And I think that it's very important to know that your desires and your wishes and what makes you happy could be, yeah, I want to start, I don't know, doing yoga, and I wanted to go to a class and become more flexible. I think that sounds awesome. Or maybe someone wants to pick a new habit, or maybe change their career path into something that really inspires them and gives them life purpose. How come that is going to be selfish? You're going to feel so fulfilled, and everyone around you will feel it. And you're going to show up for yourself and for the relationships that you have. So it's always about asking yourself how to connect with your purpose. Not only one, but we have multiple ones, I think. We live many lives. And also asking yourself, maybe the habits that I have now could have been born because of where I'm at, or my culture, or my society. And maybe they're not serving me anymore. Okay, so what do I want to do about it? How can I change? And how can I move forward from this? Not as a way like, oh, this is where I was born. This is how I was raised. And started like this, will end
This is
like
what
this.
everybody does. This is what
Yeah,
everybody does, so I guess I'll do it, you know what I mean?
exactly. So it's like an
Which
escape
is
goal.
hard. Which is hard. So let's talk about this because I know part of really what the app focuses on, from my understanding, and tell me if I'm wrong, the unconscious moderation is kind of focused a little bit more on the alcohol, but it can be used in different areas of your life. But how have you seen people interact with this, and what kind of change have you seen them make? Especially with people that maybe are in a cultural social setting where this is a very prevalent thing.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about like my personal experience with the app, because
Okay.
I'm doing it right now. And I'm going through the days. It's a 90-day program. So I'm 90 days, like not into the 90 days. I'm still doing it. But so daily meditation, movement, journaling, watching the videos that it suggests. And it's very interesting because even though like I haven't like stopped, for example, drinking alcohol, because I still like enjoy a glass of wine, it's more of like, hey, I'm I wanna have 1 glass, and I think it's gonna taste really good, and I'm gonna set my intention into 1 glass, and that's it. And I'm able to say to the people very confidently, like, "Hey, I don't want any more. Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm okay with this." And it started to compound into habits that, for example, what I was telling you, the meditation. It's the meditation guides, it's mostly about being here and now, and it gives you certain prompts that are easy to remember. And you are open for those suggestions during the meditation. They give you this prompts like kind of stick with you. And during the day, it's like, okay, I'm going to be mindful about my day. And what if I don't have to be super productive every time, every single day, constantly working as a machine, because we're all human beings and we get tired. And what about if like being with my family is just being with my family, not on my phone, not like answering work emails, or maybe if like washing dishes is really just washing dishes. Like I don't have to be doing a bunch of things all at once. Like it's being here and now. And that's how you kick autopilot off. It's not about like, oh, what are people going to think, or what's what's the perception that people have of me, or oh, I have this habit and I have to work out every single day. Maybe today my body's feeling tired and I'm connected with my body and I'll do a gentle movement. And that's still having that habit. It's still moving. Moving is great, but sometimes listening to your body and it's like, huh, maybe today I feel just like a gentle stretch. Now I'm going to do it. It's beautiful and it's treating yourself with compassion. So it's talking about my own experience in the app, but I think it's something generally speaking that people have been doing it and they enjoy it very much. Sends you reminders. It also has a hydration or a drink tracker. So it's like, how much water have you drank today? And it's like, wow, I didn't know I needed this amount of water. I was getting by on coffee and anxiety, and maybe what I need is water and stillness and just being mindful.
When this app was created, what was kind of the intention behind it, its creation?
Yeah, of course. So the main intention is that there are a lot of programs for you to understand your drinking habits, and most of them talk about abstinence. And abstinence is very, sometimes we treat that like abstinence or moderation as like kind of a moral choice, like there is a right or wrong. And what this app is trying to tell you is like maybe it's not a right or wrong, but it's more about understanding your own like psychology behind your reasoning and setting up boundaries. So it shouldn't be controversial saying like, yeah, I drink, but today I'm not drinking. But it still is sometimes. Um,
Yeah.
so this app was mostly about not saying no forever, but saying, okay, I'm listening to my body and I understand where's my limit, where's my boundary, and I'm not struggling with social situations where alcohol is involved because that happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, you know what, and I really love how you just said, I think this is something we can all take away with. Whether if you're like, because we're talking about any kind of habits, guys, although we are kind of focusing a little bit more on the alcohol thing, and that may not even be a thing for you, or it may be something in your life, and you may be like, Christy, I like my alcohol, I'm not parting with it. And that is okay, folks. We're not, like you said, it's not an abstinence approach. Sounds like to me, and it's not a right or wrong, right? The beauty of living, folks, is that you get to choose how you want to live. Okay. Now, what I've learned as a therapist is that there are some choices that lead us into a world of a little bit more struggle than others. Okay. And that is true. And sometimes we are not always aware of how our choices will impact things in our life until we've gotten so deep in the hole that we cannot find our way out. Now, we're hoping that's not you today. But if it is you, guess what? There's no shame and judgment because we all find ourselves in the hole at one point in life, and there is help available to help you get out of that hole. And this app is even like one of those things. But what I loved how you said was there's not a right or wrong in this app as you're using it, or just in anything as you're being more mindful in your life. It's really just being conscious on how you wanna live and living with more intention is what I'm hearing.
For sure. And
For
it's
sure.
more of
Yeah.
course, it's alcohol focused, but what we try to do is change that like alcohol habit into many other habits that can compound positively in your life. So it's more about understanding the habits that don't serve you anymore and knowing that it's okay to let them go. It's a process and you need sometimes you need the therapy and sometimes you need the medical attention and sometimes those tools like the app can help you go through the changes. This change is not easy, but it's not impossible. So it's also understanding that maybe what you need is to stop for a minute, understand yourself, learn your intention, learn your purpose, and change your way. Like it's not like we're talking about oh, you chose this and you gotta stick with this for the rest of your life. I think people are reinventing themselves constantly. We are completely dynamic, and that's the beauty of it all. I think that is the main takeaway, that habits can,
Yeah.
and even the good habits, like, and this is like in air quotes because everything to an extreme can be detrimental.
Yes.
It's understanding that, okay, maybe today I want that burger. I'm eating healthy every day of the week. I really want that burger. Go ahead. Or, hey, I've been working out. I've been moving my body. Today I'm going to take a rest day. Awesome. Or maybe I've been moderating myself into alcohol. And today we have a celebration and I want to drink. Uh, and I know my boundaries. Great. That's what we want to focus on. It's not about abstinence or excesses, but it's about the moderation of it all.
Yeah. Well, and I think in any of our lives, part of it is being able to get in that space of awareness to be able to say, without shame, like you said, or judgment, and with compassion, I'm a dynamic individual and I'm changing every day because change is inevitable, folks. It's going to happen one way or the other. But
Mhm.
I want to be more conscious of how I want to change. And I think sometimes you're right. I love how you said change is not easy because it's not, especially when you're trying to change habits that have been a part of your life for a very long time. Like, it's not easy to just stop an ingrained habit because it's habitual, it's a habit, you're used to it.
Yeah.
But I think that when you get on the other side of change, I've never heard anybody, and listen, there's been a lot of people that sat in my on my couch across from me. I've had a lot of conversations over a decade in the mental health field, and I've never had a conversation when somebody's made a positive change in their life and they said, I wish I didn't make that change." Like, never.
Never.
I've often heard things like, I would have done this sooner. I wish I would have been more intentional about making this change before." I wish it hadn't gotten this bad before I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe there does need to be a change that can happen." And there's no, we're all human along this journey, and there's different points in time where our awareness is more heightened than other. Or I often say the pain to stay the same is greater than the pain to change. And everybody's pain thresholds are different. But, I do think that when people do make the hard change, and I think I like how you said it because I haven't seen like an all or nothing approach work for many people in life.
Mhm.
When they're like, I'm going to go all or nothing, like that doesn't tend to work well with most humans. I'm not saying that there's some diehard humans out there that can, like, flip a switch and say, "No more, never again, all or nothing." And I do think with people that really, really struggle with, like, alcoholism when it's really became a problem or some kind of substance use, they almost have to eventually they might not do all or nothing right away, but at some point, once they're able to get to the non-use, then they do make commitments to stay in that sober realm. And I think that ends up, but again, it's them knowing themselves and what
Mhm.
they can and can't do. And so I love how you said earlier too, part of it's also knowing what your boundaries are. And everybody is so different in what's going to work for them, but it doesn't happen overnight and it doesn't happen all the time with a just completely, you know, um, morality or right or wrong or black or white type of approach to
Or
making that change.
yeah, it's not just willpower. A lot of people think like, "Oh, I'm gonna willpower my way through this." It's not just that. And there's a myth that like 21 days and you will change your life and you will have a new habit. And it's not. It can happen. The recent studies have shown that it can happen from 4 days that you start having that routine up to 200 days. So when day 21 of working on that habit comes and you still have that craving or you still have that like, "Oh, I want to go back into my old ways." Sometimes we just like, "Okay, I'm not going to change. This is me and I'm not ready for this." And the thing is like you got to treat yourself with compassion. I always say this to my patients, and It's a like a little metaphor. No one just wakes up one day and say, "Okay, I'm doing an Ironman today. I am going in and I'm gonna win an Ironman." Like, that's insane. You're putting your body through a lot of work without any training. You cannot do that. Um, and your body will tell you. But if you say, "Okay, I wanna do an Ironman. Like, I wanna do this." You start by timing yourself. Okay, what's my pace? How do I bike? How do I run,
How do I
right?
swim?
How do I
Have you ever
swim?
swim before? You
Exactly.
know?
It's like, okay, if I want to do it, I have to train. And I'm going to start step by step. And then you'll reach that goal. But it's not, oh, step one, wish, step two, you make it. Because I think that's something engraved in our culture, and especially like nowadays. And I see kids like all the time just getting frustrated when things don't work out immediately. And we were never taught how to wait and see the process. And I call it the Hollywood effect because you see in the movies, like the main character is grinding and just like working hard. And for 30 seconds, the next thing they have what they wish for. And sometimes it's like, well, I worked 30 seconds. Why don't I have what I wish for? So, it's like sometimes we're in that veil, like, "Oh, we have that Hollywood effect," and it's not like that. We gotta put the work in.
Well, and I think that's becoming even more increasingly hard because we are such in a culture of our society of instant gratification. Like, I want something like, if I want groceries, I can have them delivered to me. If I want, if I need to go instead of going shopping for all these things, if I want a new outfit, I can have it delivered to me in pretty relatively short amount of time. And I
Mhm,
think honestly, as we're talking about this, I think this is what also makes people sometimes have unrealistic expectations of what it takes to change because we are so used to things moving so quickly that we forget. Like, I think about maybe in the olden days, like how long it really did take for anything to be done, right? Like, sometimes when I'm like flying somewhere and I get there, I'm like, you know what? This is crazy. I was able to get here in this many hours. If we would have rewind the clock 200 years ago, this would have been like a 2-year adventure, you know what I mean? Like, versus like a several hours. Like, this would have took a long time, and I think that the more that we are just used to like, "Okay, I have this thought, I wanna make it happen," we forget, like you said, that there is a journey and a process, and I think just giving ourselves that permission to go on the journey and to realize that it does take time and preparation, but if you put the time and work in, really things can change and change in your favor. Um, Maybe that's a little bit better perspective to take than remembering, like, yeah, it's not gonna just show up at my doorstep, you know?
yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
um,
And, like, most of the time, it's also pretty, um, awesome when your focus and not it's not the goal itself, right? It's not the
yeah,
destination. So it's more of yeah, you build up to it and it was wonderful to achieve it, but it was the process of it all that
yeah,
you got to know yourself and got to connect with people and understood something more about your culture or your ways or your family, any process that you're at really. So that's what's really valuable. It's not the goal itself. It's the
yeah.
process.
Well, and I think sometimes when you do focus too much on the goal itself, I don't know about your experience, and I know we're kinda going a different direction here, but if you focus so much on the goal, then once you actually get there, then you're like, "Okay, well, what's the next?" So you kinda miss out on the journey of that process, and then it's kinda harder to acknowledge sometimes the stuff that did happen that helped you get to that ultimate outcome that you wanted, so well, Laura, if people are wanting to kind of learn a little bit more about the app or connect with you, where can they kinda find it at?
Of course. So we have the app both in Google Play and the App Store. You can download it. It's on conscious moderation. It's it's the logo. And you can find us on YouTube where we have a lot of videos about psychology and not only alcohol driven, but any topic really about psychology. And YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and you can definitely follow along this journey. And we invite everyone to just try and see. And it's not just about alcohol itself, but it's about the unconscious mind and how. So Carl Jung once said, like, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. And I think it's very powerful. And it's about making the unconscious conscious.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Guys, remember, this doesn't happen overnight, like we were just talking about. There
Mhm.
is no Amazon truck that is going to bring you change, okay, tomorrow. But with a little bit of work, like Laura said earlier, one of the things I'm taking away is change is not always easy, but it's not impossible. And so I
Mhm.
hope that you take one little thing today that you may be contemplating changing or something that you want to just become more aware of and just pay attention to it a little bit. You never know. The more you look at it, the more you might see things you haven't seen before, and the more you might be apt to say, maybe this is not serving me anymore and let it go. So until next time, guys. That's all for today on Inspiring Possible. If you found a little inspiration today, please go on over to iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen to leave us a comment and rate us. Also, make sure and link up with me at inspiringpossible.com to get the free Dream It, Write It, Do It workbook. And don't forget to follow us on social media and share this with anyone who needs to be inspired. Remember, if you can believe it, it's possible.